Welcome to the iNETrepreneur radio show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNETrepreneur Media Network for magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Well, hi everyone. Happy Thursday. Last Thursday it was Thanksgiving. This Thursday we're back into the wonderful world of business, and I'm excited that you're here today. My name is Robert Jones, and I'm with the iNETrepreneur Network. This is the iNETrepreneur radio show, where we have guests on from the Network Together family and guests on from around our business community so we can learn, earn, and learn how to earn. And I'm really excited today because we're talking about something that I really don't have a lot of knowledge of, and that is credit counseling. In my life, I've heard of credit counselors, and there's always been different opinions of, do you need credit counseling? Do you need it for business? Do you need it for personal reasons? How do I build credit? How do I build credit for my business? Just exactly what is credit counseling? For the most part, I think of people who may have overextended themselves and they're in deep debt, credit card debt. And I think that it's much more than that, but probably today I'll ask a little bit about that and what other ways a credit counselor can help someone expand, whether it be their personal lines of credit or even their business credit, but also maybe understanding what a credit report looks like. As far as credit counseling is concerned, how much does it cost? I mean, I'm sure there's a cost to it, and it may be different for different people who have different needs, but I'm really excited today. We have Lynn Davies with Angelight Credit Counseling, and also we're hoping to get Chris Zonneveld with Credit Your Community. But it's also been another exciting week. Dr. Karen Perkins and myself and Sean Jones, Becky Norwood, and a few other people have been working on the book, 365 Days of Networking Quotes. It's the Art of Connection. That book will be coming out right before our new year hits, 2021. If you're like me in certain ways, I am really ready for 2020 to be over with. I'm ready to get into 2021. I'm thinking it's just going to be a great year. Did we have to pivot? Did we have to reset? Did we have to improvise, overcome, and adapt? Absolutely. But right now, I'm just looking forward to ending the year right, and I'm just excited for all the things to come. And so first, who we have today is we have Lynn Davies with Angelight Credit Counseling. Hi, Lynn. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, I'm really excited. I'm sure you heard my introduction a little bit, and I was just talking about how 2020 has maybe been a little bit challenging for a lot of people. I know I'm included in that. My wife, and there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners that have been, very upset with the way that their year started versus how the middle of the year came about to how maybe they're going to end up, finishing strong. So I'm excited about how that will, things will work out. But how's your year been so far?
My business is doing okay. It has its ups and downs. The corona kind of hurt it a little bit, but business is doing good. So.
That's good. I mean, I'm sure there's quite a few things that you had to pivot through this year so far, from probably learning new technologies and finding in different ways of being able to connect and work with your clients. And I mean, probably just even with your family, it's probably changed most people's lives and, everyday lives in every way. I know it's with my family. I mean, we have some kids homeschooling. We have some doing hybrid schooling. We have some that are currently going to school, but I don't even know how long that's going to last. But, everything's changing.
That's true. I'm learning Zoom and stuff, and I really like the hands-on with the clients, but Zoom does help you, and I've learned how to do the presentations on Zoom and stuff. And, but the social distancing is very important, if we want to fight this, virus that's going around. And like I have two full-grown kids, but one does live with me, and he's been having to, work from home, and so we actually have two offices at home, so that we're not clashing with each other. And but yeah.
Well, and that brings up something we've had to really challenge ourselves on how we do work and produce, and either meet with people or use Zoom or Skype or Google Meet. Even in my office, I actually have an office outside the home, and what's been challenging is there have been scares of COVID through the business center that I'm at. And 3 times this year, we've had to shutter out of here, and they've had to do an extreme clean, which usually is anywhere from a 48 to 72-hour process, or we're not able to come into the building. And sometimes when you're hitting deadlines and you can't access equipment, and do some of the things you need to do, and then you have to, call clients, or you have to call different vendors, you have to make different plans. Because you can't get into your office building, that gets to be quite stressful. So I'm sure, there's other business owners out there that are, like me, and, it's really stretched our patience, our perseverance, our belief, our hopes, all sorts of things. But, I want to talk about you, Lynn, and I want to go, back, I've known you for several years. I mean, you were kind enough to help network together really in the early days. I mean, probably 8 years ago. I think my son was probably 6 or 7 years old at the time. And, for myself personally, I was kind of getting my feet wet in what networking even really was back when we met. And there was a lot of learning curves for me, because I thought I was an entrepreneur, but really I think what it was is I did a lot of contract work for large companies over the course of my life. And really they kind of fed you what you were supposed to do. They said, here are the tasks, and here's how much money you're going to get paid, and this is the time frame that you can do it in. Here's the resources you can have. But even though I owned my own logo, even though I had my own business, I had so many large clients, I didn't really realize what it was like not to have, big contracts to work with. And it was quite different when I had to kind of think about not just communicating with my clients, but communicating with staff and volunteers, and keeping my other business running, and being a single dad, which, you helped me through with a lot of encouragement at the time. And, he's now 14 years old. But I know that, you have a background, and you grew up. Let's start. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I don't remember that because my parents moved out here with all 6 of us for my dad's health. And so I was just turning 6 when we moved out here. And so I went to school in Cartwright District area. And then I, was raised in Phoenix, Arizona. But as I grew up, I've explored pretty much of Arizona. I've moved to Phoenix, to Buckeye area, to North Phoenix, Paradise Valley area, Mesa, Santan Valley. So I have seen Arizona grow. I was here when the first McDonald's was built. Can you imagine?
Gosh. Well,
and it was more like an outdoor one, like when they rode up with skates.
Right. Probably the old McDonald's where they actually had the yellow arches that went over the building, maybe. Was it like that?
It was a small building, really, and really they didn't really have seating at first when they first built it. It was outside.
Yeah.
And can you imagine in Arizona having seating outside? It's
absolutely not. They could say it's a dry heat, but I'm still I'm still looking the relevance in what dry and heat means together. When it's hot, it's just hot.
Oh my God, yeah. It was more like a Sonic, where you drive and you could sit outside and they'd come to your car.
Well, and it's really interesting because I know I think of McDonald's and I think of, food that's, the fast food, it's not healthy. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure during that time frame to have, one of the first McDonald's in Arizona, certainly, Phoenix, that probably still was pretty exciting time. It probably was fun to go try out
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Oh, it was fun for us kids. They did not have the playgrounds, with in my generation because I'm in my 70s.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and we had favorite places growing up. I went to Maryvale High School, for my high school, and then I went to the community colleges for two different community colleges, and then I went to ASU, to finish up my degrees. But yeah,
And,
um,
and
I've
what
seen a
were
lot grow here.
Yeah, and so like when you went to in high school, what were some of your interests in high school?
In high school, well, I was on several of the clubs. Back then they were really hyped on clubs. I'm not sure if they're still hyped on clubs, but I was in the cooking club and the sewing club. In our generation, they didn't let the girls do shop and stuff like that.
Right.
But I was involved with a lot of that. And I enjoyed that. I was always liking to help out. And it seems like no matter what group I'm in, I like to participate to help, you know.
Well, I
So,
mean, and then you went to ASU. I mean, I'm a Sun Devil as well, so go Sun
mhm.
Devils. but I'm sure. I mean, ASU has changed over the years. My aunt,
Mhm.
she received her PhD, as did her husband, my
Yeah.
uncle, from ASU in the early '70s, and
Mhm.
even the student body has changed in the last 50 years or so since then.
Mhm.
But probably when you went to school, there probably was maybe even less females, less diversity,
Mhm.
less options for schooling. What were some of the options that you looked forward to, or what did you graduate in?
Electronics, you know.
Electronics. So when
Mhm.
you say electronics, that's really broad.
I know.
What
Well, because
specialty?
it's more than one part of it. Electrical engineering, and then robotics. But I didn't finish the robotic part, for that a second degree. But Motorola paid for pretty much all my schooling except for the books. You know, they kind of picked my career. I
Yeah.
worked for Motorola for 23 years, and I fit the category. I was, for it. One was I was a woman because
Yeah.
Motorola got sued, and they had to educate so many women for so many years, and then they had to, and then the minority groups, and so I happened to be picked to go and
It had to be a special and great time. I mean, really, I mean, you really probably were pretty close to being a trailblazer. I mean, being female, being in engineering programming, I mean, that's STEM right there, and that's something that
Mhm,
we're encouraging everyone to go in there. Especially women. I remember when they started the
mhm,
STEM projects. Now, my mom, you might not know this, but she taught multicultural, non-sexist education, so she was very much a champion
mhm,
on getting women into positions of authority and leadership, and a lot
mhm,
of networking things which I draw back on now. I've learned from my mom, but so you worked at Motorola for 23 years, so in a
mhm.
way, by working with a company that long, you probably didn't necessarily have an entrepreneurial spirit, maybe, or did you have
Oh
that
no.
sewn in there after all those years?
I did. I had numerous businesses as I was working with Motorola. One was childbirthing. I used to do childbirthing,
And
as
I
a
don't usually think of that as a business, but I'm it's like
yeah,
childbirthing. Tell me a
yeah.
little bit about that.
Well, I was a doula, okay? And so what I would do is assist with the childbirthing, okay? I teach them how to relax, how to breathe, and I used to do something called hypnobirthing. So we would teach the husband how to hypnotize his wife through the breathing process and stuff like that. But half the time, the husbands forget how to do it, and so you're doing it. But you're walking with them, and you're with them through the whole pregnancy plus the birthing procedure. And what we do is we keep them home as long as we can because most of us believe in natural childbirth instead of the epidurals and stuff like that, which is not healthy for the baby. You know, most
Right.
people don't realize that. But I did that for numerous years, and my boss was great. You know, I would tell her, whenever I have a baby, I'm off. I'm
Yeah.
leaving, and without notice, I'm gone. You know, and my boss was good about that because I was kind of they saw me as somebody who could solve a lot of problems. When I went to most of the departments I went into had issues, and they said, "Can you handle problems?" And I go, "Yeah, I can handle problems." And
Well,
then,
I would say so.
you know, and the famous part was I loved doing the clean room specialist part, where I got to go to all the different plants and kind of help, you know, organize, you know, the departments and stuff. So that was nice, you know, and I worked with personnel too.
Well,
But
yeah.
when I went into, I had coaching, you
Mhm.
know, I went and got education in coaching. And so I was doing life coaching for a long time. And then I branched off into business coaching. And then I'm now into teaching people how to fix their credit. You know, it's very important. It's not just in business that needs to fix their credit. It's also people's personal life, because people don't realize how much it affects them.
Well, I think that I think that credit is probably one of the things that really does just create trauma for many marriages. It
Hmm.
creates trauma for many home businesses. You know, it's something that I feel. I always say this about entrepreneurs. One of the things that I think about entrepreneurs is we always work on what we do, but we don't really work on ourselves. But a part of working on ourselves is just being educated about the other areas that our business that we may need help in. You know, at
Hmm.
least being knowledgeable enough where you know that some questions to ask for help, because many
Hmm.
times you may not know that you're going to be hitting a credit brick wall, sooner
Hmm.
or later, if you're not budgeting correctly, or your accounting is off, or your taxes aren't doing properly, or you're not making payments on time, or even having enough credit card, probably, I guess, what is it, like the 60% of your credit cards need to be open, but having some spread there. But going back to when you were going from a life coach to a business coach, and now within credit counseling, what kind of pivot do you into credit counseling? What made that change for you to go, hey, I'm going to go from business coaching to actually credit counseling? Was there any pivotal moment?
Well, I had always been teaching people all along how to fix their credit, you know. And one day, one of my friends says, "You should get paid for that." And I feel
Okay.
embarrassed about saying that. But one of my
No,
friends
don't
says,
don't be embarrassed about getting paid.
but I was doing it for free, helping people. And my friend says, "Hey, you know, you teach them so much stuff and help them with so much stuff that you should get paid for it." And so that is part of, you know, what I do. I work them through, you know, fixing their credit scores, explaining the credit system, and explaining that, you know, um, you know, it's really, they need to keep 70% of their line of credit open. They need to no charge less than 30%, you know, 30% and less, you know, because that hurts your ratio. It's a 35% ratio. And a lot of
Right.
people don't realize that, you know.
So let's look at this. I mean, because I know you have great integrity, because I've known you for a long time, Lynn. But and I know a lot of people actually may need credit counseling but don't get it. But then I also know that there's people that probably get credit counseling but they need something else. What when you vet clients that come on to you, when you start working with them, what do you really look for from them to say, I'm going to take them on as a client?
Well, I usually have a questionnaire that I ask them, you know, and the thing about it is, you know, it depends on what they're coming to me for, because some people come and they want their credit score fixed, okay? And I have to find out, okay, do you have, you know, have you had any repos? Have you had a bankruptcy? repos can be getting off of the credit score. Okay. If, like, let's say you have gap insurance, people don't realize this. It's good if you have gap insurance because gap insurance kicks in if they repo, because with the dealership or whoever picks up your car, when they sell that car, that's a debt they can come after you on the difference, okay, and of what you owe. And the gap insurance doesn't pay until after they've gotten rid of the car. Well, that debt may have been turned into a collection agency, okay? And that collection agency only knows the main debt, the big debt, okay? And so the thing about it is that you can usually get it off because the price is different, the amount that is owed. And so you can usually get that off your credit score. Now, it doesn't mean that you are debt free from it. It just means it's not going to show up in your credit score and help you, because most companies have 7 years to sue you. Okay.
Yeah.
And it starts every time you talk to it restarts every time you talk to a collection agency. So that's why I tell people, don't talk to a collection agency.
Yeah, that is kind of a scary one. And let's go through maybe like 3 more points. One, hey, everyone out there, don't talk to a credit agency because it starts over again. I think that's very, very important. And it's actually a rule that I didn't know. And it starts all over again. And unfortunately, I've had to, I'm a Legal Shield. You see, Legal Shield's a wonderful company. And it's helped me out of some of these situations where I've had to have letters written. But you don't know what you don't know. What are some other things people that they can do, but they may not know?
For fixing their credit, first of all, they do have to respond to the first letter, okay?
Okay.
Because there's a small paragraph in there. And I tell people, don't call them and don't admit to the debt, okay? You want them to prove that they are actually legal to ask you to come after you for that, because you do have bill collectors that go to the courthouses and find out who's in debt, and then they try to, get the money from you, and then you pay them, and they're not paying it back to the company. Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, they're really just mining for money in a way.
Yeah. And people think deferment is a good thing. Deferment is not really a good thing, people, because it shows up on your credit score as late, even though the credit company right now with the corona cannot show that you're late on your payments. But it does affect your credit score. And if you ever look at your credit score, it's going to be in big red letters, deferment. Okay. So that's saying, ooh, this person can't pay their bills. They can't pay their bills. Okay. Plus, with a deferment, you don't realize that you're doing a cumulative on that interest. Okay. You're still accumulating all that interest plus what you owed before. And that is putting you farther in debt. Okay. And I always tell people, don't worry about the inquirers, in sense, don't get a lot of inquirers. Don't shop around whether they pull your hard credit, because when you shop around, that hurts your credit score, but it's the least of your worries. That rolls off no matter what in 2 years. And if it doesn't, you can just write them a letter and say, hey, remove it,
Well, and what I'm thinking here is when you're bringing on clients, sometimes they're not in the best frame of mind. I mean, they're worried, they're stressed, they want to get out of this, they need help, they're embarrassed, there could be any number of things. Now, with your background, I mean, certainly one thing I like about you is you probably, really do a great job of probably just sitting them down and holding their hand and saying, we will get through this, but what we have to do, there has to be certain incremental steps that we have to go one by one to get there. And I'm sure that you do that. But what are some of the things that some of your clients are really most fearful of?
They're afraid of losing their home, or they're afraid of not being able to feed their kids and things like that. The other aspect of my business, though, is to help them pay their bills, show them how to make a budget, how to, we want part of this is I do have a software program that helps them know what bills to pay, what day, what time, and stuff. We plug that all in, and it tells them that they could pay a 30-year mortgage off in 15 years or less, if they follow the procedures. But they have to do the work too. A lot of times when they come in, they think we're going to do the work 100%. And
Right.
it's not me. And it's like, if you're going to have somebody helping you, be honest with them, because we have to have all the information to go forward. We can't
Right.
have partial bits and pieces. Like, we don't need to know what bank you bank at for the credit card company. We don't need to know any credit card numbers, really. What we need to do is sit down and figure out the debt, that you owe. Most people want to. This is a world of debt. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Everything is involved in debt. We want to buy a house. We want to have a house. We go to school. We have the school is one that you can't really get off, the student loans, because they will go after you, student loans, but you can get it off the credit report sometimes, but you still owe it. Okay.
Right.
But you want a car, you want a job. If you have bad credit, you cannot. Some places will not hire you if you have bad credit. And if you want to buy a house, your interest rate is not going to be that 2.75. It's going to be more like the 5 or 6 if you have a bad credit score. And people can still get buy a house even at a high 600 credit score, but you don't really want to have it that way. You want to try to fix it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let's tell people how. I mean, I'll scroll your information across the screen here so people can get a hold of you. Let me do that. And are there other ways that people can get a hold of you? And what does that first session look like with them? What are some questions you may ask?
Well, I do have a 15-minute free consultation. Sometimes it runs into 30 minutes, and I don't charge them for that. The prices range because of what I have to do. Some people it's just something very simple, and to work with, And I also tell people, hey, I hold you accountable. You have to email me. That is one of the things I tell people. You need to email me and tell me what you're feeling, what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a bill come in and you're not sure if it's your bill. There's times when I've called the credit companies up for people, but they have to give me permission. They have to give me written permission to talk on their behalf, because some people are afraid to talk to the credit company, and but I tell people, and then another thing, when they call me, I do have a set of questions that I usually ask them, and, I ask them what all do they owe and what is important and what is their goal? What is their goal? And what are they expecting from me? Okay. And how can I communicate with them the best way? Because some people, they have something set in their mind, what a coach does. And so you want to be connected with them. You don't want to come in and this person's more audio and you're going to do presentations with them. They're going to be bored. They're not going to pay attention,
Right.
And it's like, get with it. Some people need that step by step, like this one person that I work with. I have to send her emails step by step, what I'm expecting. Okay. But I do expect them to write me and tell me, hey, I'm having a good day or a bad day, because coaching is not just, saying we're going to get you out of debt or we're going to teach you how to budget. It's also building that relationship up so that we can find out what are you thinking, or what is your limiting beliefs, because the limiting beliefs kills us, and so we have to work on that too.
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank you for being on the show today, Lynn, and you gave us a lot of good advice, functional advice on what we could do to look at, not diverting credit, being careful about, who you're contacting, knowing that the debt is yours. but also I think that you led us in some other areas. How it's not just the counseling, but you're coaching them, you're help getting them along. You really want to, find out what their goals are, what's their intentions for getting to the place that they want to be. So I really appreciate you being on the show today, Lynn. Anyone out there, the information is going across the stream. If you'd like to ask any questions or you want her to contact you, please put it in the comments. She'll be able to see that. So Lynn, thank you so much again for being on the show. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And, like I say, we're there to help you, not to put you more in debt. Sometimes you have to spend a little money to get out of debt, but also, you have to work on it yourself too. You can't fall. And once we get you out of debt, we got to teach you how not to get back into it.
That is right. And someone told me, getting out of debt's almost like a diet. You can lose the weight, but the other trick is not just losing the weight, it's actually keeping the weight off. And I think that debt in many ways is like that too. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being on today.
Thank you very much.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Hi, my name is Nathan Hirsch, and I build and even sell businesses completely run by virtual assistants. That's right. No office, no US employees, just remote non-US virtual assistants. And I recently scaled an 8-figure business with just VAs. Now, I want to teach other people how to do the same with my new venture, Outsource School. We teach you how to interview, onboard, train, and manage virtual assistants at a very high level. We also give you access to our standard operating procedures, our library of SOPs, and a tool to create and share your SOPs. Not to mention community, support, live coaching calls to help you build amazing virtual teams and avoid the issues that your competitors are probably having. If you are interested, go to outsourceschool.com. You can grab a free trial to check out what Outsource School is all about.
Well, I want to thank Lynn Davies for being on the show today. She gave us a lot of advice, and she really did well explaining herself outside just the credit counseling services that she provides. Again, that's Lynn Davies, and she's with Angelight Credit Counseling. She can be found in the networktogether.net directory. Our next guest today is my good friend, Chris Zonneveld. Hi, Chris.
Hi there, at last.
Yes, you made it. I'm glad that you're here today. Chris is with Credit Your Community, and Chris is definitely known for his service through Credit Your Community, but he's also known for that beautiful South African accent that he has.
I've been in the United States for 32 years now. And everybody says, why haven't you lost your accent? I don't. It's just one of those
I guess I would ask them, why would I want to lose my accent? I think it's one of the most endearing and memorable things that a person can have is when they have something like an accent. It's like he's that guy with the accent. Even that makes you memorable enough that someone might come back to utilize your services. So I always say, anytime when you're in a room full of apples, be the banana, right, Chris?
Well, the point being, I genuinely believe when I'm knocking on doors in what I do, I'm probably the third person if I'm knocking on a door at 11 a.m. of a morning and they've already been contacted by 2 other people. And just because I sound different, I believe it actually opens a door.
Yeah, I would believe that as well. Well, like I do with those who come onto the show, I always like to dig back and go back to the background a little bit. You were, I believe, born in South Africa, and you lived there for quite a few years before you came over to the United States. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and then the pivot point that had you move from South Africa to the United States.
Well, I thank my parents. We were born into an apartheid society. I'm amazed the number of Americans that can't remember what apartheid really is. Apart, hate.
Mm.
And if your skin was black or brown, you could come and work for me, but you had to go and live in certain areas, i.e. apart. And I thank my parents. I went to integrated schools. I became very active politically. So anti-apartheid was big when I founded my training and development consulting business with 3 other people. Because part of our mission was to never accept apartheid business.
You know, and it really is interesting that you bring that up, because in this country, sometimes I really do believe that many members, many of our citizens don't understand that it's not a United States issue, that prejudice and racial profiling, these preconceived thoughts, segmenting each other, is not a United States, exclusive. It's actually something that goes on really worldwide. And there's places outside the United States where it's actually far worse. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, it certainly was until 1994, when President Mandela, one of my heroes, was elected. And I believe, in my personal opinion, history will take him as one of the leaders of the 20th century. And my reasoning for that is that we were heading for civil war. And he came in and he accepted people. He was humble. He had empathy. He knew how to use symbols to unite people. He did a fantastic job.
Well, and you said something that actually resonated with me, Chris. A lot of people don't know that I'm biracial myself. That's, at least in the United States, they look at it that way because my mom is Mexican. She's of Mexican descent, and then my dad is Welsh. From Wales, and his family's from Wales. And even in my mom's generation, not my grandmother's generation, but my mom's generation, and in Kansas, of all places, they had 3 different schools. They had schools for the African Americans. They had schools, or blacks, as they called them black schools, brown schools, and white schools, actually. And so the Mexicans and anyone who was more of a Hispanic descent went to their own schools, separate from even the white and the black schools at that time. And my grandmother actually fought the Kansas Board of Education to have them repeal these differing schools back in that was in the 50s. So I can say firsthand, from my mom, I know what it's like from her, what type of society, we lived in, how far we've come. But certainly as we live now, we have a long ways to go. But, you gave a lot of reverence to your parents so they came over with you in this journey to the United States then?
No.
Oh, they did not?
No. They were long gone to the happy hunting ground.
Okay.
Miss them. No, they didn't come with the journey. I had a training and development company that didn't accept any apartheid business called the Contact Group. So my background is training and development, per se. We didn't accept any apartheid business, which effectively, directly and indirectly, cut you out of 58% of the marketplace.
That's quite a bit. I mean,
but we still had commercial accounts. Xerox, Shell International sponsored a research study that we did through the Center of Intergroup Studies attached to the University of Cape Town to examine the whole issue of negotiating, influencing with regard to Black community leaders. Now, we're talking negotiating at a level like, how do I negotiate to stay in my house if I can't pay the rent? How do I negotiate to get police away from a funeral so that we don't have a riot? So it was at that level. And naively, I went along and spoke to community leaders about win-win negotiating. And I got these blank stares until I realized, Robert, that we were dealing with people that didn't understand the concept of winning.
Yeah.
And that led to the development of a model that you and I can have a relationship that starts off being very adversarial on the left and then becomes something that is more rigid, i.e. positional, then comes something that's more value added to a relationship that's ongoing. And you have a continuum. And we developed this model, which we sold to Xerox. And when we came to the United States, I started consulting work with Xerox and helped them with their buyer-focused selling skills program.
And here's something that, it really is a great conversation for right now, because one of the things I hear is win-win. And for a lot of people, when they hear win, there can be only one. And that really is changing. I do believe in certain respects, to sharpen your skills, you need to have a winner. You need to reward those who succeed and excel. But I also believe that there's a time and place where we share our gifts, where it is a win-win. It is a collaborative effort of our best to create something that benefits all. And it's kind of funny, because when you used to say win, it was very much a singular approach to business. And now when you say win-win, everyone understands it's win-win or win-win-win or even win-win-win-win. And I think that what's happening is we're seeing that together everyone does achieve more, but it goes so much deeper than that. You can understand it intellectually, but emotionally, it's still not there yet. Because I hear it all the time about win-win, but people don't understand, the underlying, efforts that you have to get to that win-win. And
the beauty of what you've got in terms of Network Together is your primary premise is it's all about the relationship. And when you think of that dynamic and you develop the relationship first and foremost, I've got to do something for you first, however small, so that we can actually start a circle of developing a relationship. I always find it fascinating that people throw out the word trust so easily.
Yeah.
Trust is such a delicate essence between two people. It takes time to develop. And over time, and dear Lord, with the click of a finger, when I don't follow up on something, or I don't send you the email that I said I will send to you this afternoon, and you needed it for the program.
Yes.
And it doesn't arrive, you chip at that trust, and it takes an enormous amount of effort to develop.
Well, and I think one of the things is, and we'll get to your business part too, but this is a really fascinating conversation right now. I think what happens is people forget a part of trust isn't that you do everything for me perfectly. See, and I think that that's where we've lost what trust means. Trust means that we're pursuing everything that we do for you perfectly. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen perfect, but it means that you trust me to do something with all of my effort and all of my will. That's where the trust comes in. Where I believe we fail in trust is we forget the word grace, because it's the relationship you like, and then you trust someone. A part of trust is having grace with the other person to know that Nothing is 100%. Chris, you may forget to send me that email, but you know what? In my respect, part of my respect for you would be is I'm going to contact you back and say, hey, Chris, I haven't received that email. And you might say, oh, boneheaded me, I forgot to do that. But that's a part of trust. It's having enough grace and respect that we have for each other to make sure that we actually are, you know, there's that saying, we are each other's brothers keepers, but we do it enough to where, you know, that's what a trusting relationship does. It's not looking for perfection at every turn, but it is looking for the pursuit of perfection and the outcome of happiness. And I think that that's a way to look at trust.
Sure. And you and I, we've all got human frailties. At some stage, we are going to stumble.
Yes.
We are going to fail at something. That is life. That is being an individual. And part of the trust is that I could feel comfortable to call you, Robert, and say, I'm sorry. XYZ happened and I couldn't do that. And I probably won't be able to do it. So let's think of another alternative. That would develop the relationship and the trust more, where you can be open as an individual and admit some frailty.
Yeah.
I believe
and you know, and when we think of referrals, I mean, every time that we give a referral away, there's vulnerability and frailty there. Because quite frankly, every time that someone does that, I don't think we look at it this way. We're saying that we can't do something, but we're trusting or validating someone else that they can do it better than us, quicker than us, further, whatever it is than us. Actually, what we're saying is, I can't do it, but I know someone who can. And there is a little bit of a vulnerability there. But what I want to go is I want to turn our dial a little bit and talk a little. Oh, you want to talk to this? Okay, sure.
Just say one thing. I do some coaching of business leaders. And I think at this point in time, it is desperately needed as well. And the conversation always comes around to the vulnerability of the business leader in terms of what they have to do within the organization. It comes back to the individual who's actually very, very humble and pressured. Sorry, I just had to get that out there.
And I'm glad you did, because I totally agree. Strength comes from vulnerability. In our culture still, for many men, to say that they can't do something and they have to rely on someone else to do it, that there's still a certain amount of vulnerability. I'm 56 years old. My dad's generation certainly was far worse when it comes to being vulnerable. He was always like he could do everything. And I get that. And we're changing. We're becoming more intuitive. We're becoming more collaborative oriented. We're becoming more communal in the way that we even can crowdfund. So things are changing. And what I'm seeing now, though, too, is it's starting to change even in our business world. Many times, especially the first time I met you, Chris, you were like, oh, I do credit card processing. And the first thing you think of is like, okay, which door can I exit fastest to get away from that guy?
Exactly.
And so I'll build this up for you a little bit. But when I really heard you, probably the third time, it took about 3 times for me to really get what you were saying you are talking, yes, there's transaction fees. Yes, there's certain terms that each company has. Yes, we are here to serve and we're here to help. But half of the proceeds of the company that I have on all that you do, right, that comes through my processing funnel, I will donate something back to the charity of your choice. When I actually figured that out in my mind, it kind of blew me away. I was like, I've never heard of that before. It was like cause-based financial marketing.
I've got a gray beard. I'm at that stage of my life.
Right.
And it's my way of giving back. So I get a business's credit card processing, lower rates, lower fees, improving the bottom line, all that good stuff. Everybody else does that.
Yeah. Yes.
But we're going to talk about banks just now. Everybody does that. And by the way, I've probably got about 3,000 competitors here in the United States, so I'm not unique. And I remember working with an organization that I do my processing through, because I personally don't do the processing. I work with a processor. I had to find some processor that had my values outlook with regard to business. And how can I tell you this story?
I'm waiting for this.
I remember after starting selling credit card processing for about 3 or 4 years, it's mind-blowingly boring. I couldn't get excited about it. I'd landed a training contract with a major retailer in the East, so I had some other options that I could work with. And I went in to see the CEO to say, thank you, but no thank you. This is not for me.
Yeah.
And they were doing a board meeting, Robert. Glass wall, and he saw me arrive for my 10 o'clock meeting, and he called me in. And he told me to sit in the corner and shut up because they had one item left that they had to deal with in the board meeting. And this was a large company, a processor that was going to donate $281,000 that year to get the tax benefit. The accountants had done the calculation.
Right.
And you know how they made that decision? All male board, clue number one. How do you think they made that decision?
Well, it was based on what's best for their interest, probably not best for the community.
Well, at least that would have had some logic to it.
Less logic than that? Oh, no.
The oldest member of the board, who was 64 at the time, had a 29-year-old girlfriend at a non-profit, and that was the non-profit that got that sum of money.
Oh, my.
And you know how something just goes off in your head.
Yes.
And I put up my hand and I said, hey, guys, you're making this decision the wrong way around. And all the heads turned towards me. And I said, you should make your product, which is processing, the vehicle of donation. Well, there was an uproar and they kicked me out, and that was the end of that relationship. And I had to think, what am I going to do? Because I really don't like credit card processing per se. And 3 months later, I registered Credit Your Community. So I still do credit card processing, but now it has meaning for me. Now it has value, because what I do, I get the account, and then nobody will change their processor if it doesn't make economic sense.
Yeah.
They're not getting a better deal. And then they're not dealing with a company that's not just going to railroad them. So let's assume those things are all in place. But then I obviously make money on an account. And 50% of my net revenue, I donate back to the business's nonprofit of choice. So they get a second level of discount. And now it has meaning for me. And it's crediting your community. So if you're animal mad, the local animal shelter, I need a bank account and a routing number, and we send the donation.
Well, you know,
you retain your marketing rights.
Yeah, and I always look at it. I mean, you know, entrepreneurs want to have purpose in what they do, and I think many times the purpose for most people who do credit card processing, their passion is their profit, and you know, I think that's what is different here. Your passion and your purpose is giving back and profit. It serves your purpose in a way that you wouldn't be able to do this otherwise. I mean, definitely I hear your words there, but you know, what are some of the companies, not their names, but let's say the not-for-profits, what are some of the not-for-profits that some of your companies are giving to? And actually, how does that work? How do they actually get the money? I mean, is it a check? Is it sent electronically? How do I sign them up? You know, how does that process, what does that look like?
That's a good question, because ABC company signs up, and as the name Credit Your Community implies, they're passionate about something. And let's assume the owner of ABC is animal mad, and they'd like to support the local animal shelter down the road where they got their puppy from. And so we're doing their credit card processing. We obviously make some money, and all that the owner of ABC has to let me know is the nonprofit, the animal shelter's bank account, account number, and routing number.
Okay.
And on that account, I will tell my processor 50% of what I earn on that account monthly gets credited to the animal shelter that ABC believes needs the support.
So really, all the time, and the energy, the effort, that's all in the beginning. Once it's set up, it's seamless.
It's totally. And you see, ABC retains the marketing rights, so they can say they support that animal shelter, but it doesn't cost them a penny to do that. So on all their social mediums, they can advertise, we support the local animal shelter, which helps their business profile or whatever it is, their mission. And it doesn't cost them a penny, the second level of discount they get.
And not only that, I mean, the company that actually is doing that, they can actually take what they have a reconciliation of it at the end of the year, and they could send that to their accountant, and they can actually use that as that they donated all year that amount of money, correct?
Well, I'd have to talk to.
Okay, I just want to see.
I would think that doesn't ring true.
Okay.
Because I can only claim making donations up to a certain level myself. So it's genuine donation after that. And there's a limit to that in terms of the law. So I don't think they can claim that if they're not physically paying it.
Well, I certainly think that no matter what, it's still going to a charity of your choice. And I believe if you have the ability to give. I believe that if you're a part of the community, be a part of it, not apart from it. Yep. We all live and we all share in this together. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you being on the show today. I want to, I'm going to put your banner back up here so people can see your information scrolling by. You know, in addition to what's scrolling across the screen, how can other people get to know gosh, what am I saying? How can people get to know more about you, Chris, and how can they find you?
On my website, Credit Your Community, and I'm on Facebook. I'm fighting with LinkedIn at the moment, so I will be on LinkedIn. Hey, send me an email, chris@credityourcommunity.org, and let's talk.
All right. And also, you know, you brought up Network Together, the iNETrepreneur Network earlier. So you can also be found occasionally in some of the chapter meetings, both virtually and in person.
I will be at the one tomorrow morning, bright and bushy-tailed.
Well, I really appreciate you being on the show here, Chris, and just talking a little bit more about merchant processing. You know, actually, I'm actually glad you're on the show, not to talk too much about credit processing. You know, it all goes back to economics, but it also goes back to, you know, who are you serving? And I believe that you serve every client, you know, with great intent, and you serve the community because you look for those businesses who want to serve others. So I thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show today.
There's Credit Your Community as I save money and give, and it costs the business zero.
You cannot beat that. Well, again, Chris, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for taking some time to have this discussion.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a show a little bit about credit, but more about the people behind the credit counseling services and the credit card processing services. My goal here on the show is not just to talk about what they do, but why they do it and how they got there. Again, we can be reached every week on YouTube. It's youtube.com/the iNETrepreneur Network, or through our members only page on Facebook, or our business referral group, which can be found on Facebook as well. Again, my name is Robert Jones. I'm the owner and founder of the iNETrepreneur Network. I hope you're having a successful week, and I'm looking forward to 2021. So everyone out there, have a great holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Buy lots of goodies out there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You've been watching the iNETrepreneur Show, a production of the iNETrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. at Greenwich Mean Time.